In the serene yet somber atmosphere of Grace Memorial Gardens, a remarkable moment unfolded. Through the morning mist, a muddy German shepherd named Max burst through the gathered mourners, his paws pounding against the damp grass. The crowd, dressed in black, gasped in surprise as he raced toward a small white casket. "Stop that dog!" someone cried out. But Max was already there, his muddy paws resting on the polished wood, whimpering with all his heart. Thomas Harrison instinctively moved to pull Max away from his daughter's casket, his face etched with profound grief. Yet Max stood resolute, scratching at the lid with urgency, his cries echoing the family's sorrow. "Let him be," Sarah Harrison whispered, her voice barely rising above her tears. "He came all this way." Her words hung in the air as Max's frantic behavior took on a deeper meaning, compelling the mourners to pause, captivated by the bond that transcended words. In the quaint town of Millbrook, Vermont, the Harrison family's journey became a testament to the resilience of love and connection. They lived in a small rental house on Pine Street, where Thomas, a long-haul truck driver with calloused hands and kind eyes, spent weeks on the road, tirelessly working to provide for his family. His weathered face and graying hair spoke of countless midnight drives and missed family dinners. Yet his unwavering dedication shone brightly through his hardships. Sarah Harrison, with her gentle spirit, worked double shifts at the local Sunshine Laundromat. Her hands, though rough from hot water and detergent, were always warm with love. Despite their financial challenges, her radiant smile never faltered, especially when it came to her daughter Emily. Together they weathered life's storms, their love growing ever stronger. Emily was their miracle, a beacon of joy in their world. Emily was born after years of longing, gracing their lives with bright blue eyes and a laughter that could illuminate the darkest days. At just 6 years old, she had a wisdom that belied her age, often sitting by the window for hours, eagerly awaiting her father's truck's arrival. Though they had little, Emily never dwelled on what her classmates had. Instead, she thrived on simple joys, collecting fallen leaves, crafting drawings for her parents, and sharing precious moments with Max. Max entered their lives on Emily's 6th birthday, a serendipitous gift from fate. Thomas found the little German shepherd puppy, abandoned in a cardboard box by the highway during one of his long routes. The puppy trembled, soaked from the autumn rain, and despite their tight budget, Thomas couldn't leave him behind. He wrapped the tiny creature in his jacket and rushed home, where he arrived just in time to surprise Emily at her birthday dinner, forever changing their lives with love and companionship. The moment I laid eyes on Max, it felt like fate had smiled upon me. I named him after my favorite character, Max the Brave, and from that day, he became my ever-loyal companion. With each passing day, Max followed me around like my shadow, sleeping outside my door and waiting patiently while I had my meals. His love and presence made my heart swell with joy. As he grew into a magnificent dog with intelligent brown eyes, I felt a sense of safety during my dad's long absences, knowing my brave friend was always by my side. Max became so much more than just a pet. He was my confidant, my protector, and my best friend. Little did we know how this bond would be tested, revealing the true depths of loyalty, love, and the fine line between life and death. As spring began to warm the playground of Millbrook Elementary School, tragedy struck. I was 8 years old and had developed a routine of meeting Max at the school fence during recess, relishing our time together. Max would sit patiently on the other side of the fence watching me play, his love unwavering. The school administration had initially hesitated to allow him at school, but his gentle spirit and protective nature won them over. Unfortunately, not everyone appreciated our special bond. Jessica Anderson, a 5th grader with a reputation for cruelty, had been targeting me for weeks, seeking to undermine my happiness. She would mock my second-hand clothes and ridicule my friendship with my mutt, as she called Max. I endured her taunts, holding on to my mother's wise words. "Heal them with kindness, sweetheart." That fateful Tuesday afternoon, Jessica and her friends cornered me near the old pond, a place strictly off-limits to students, hidden from teachers by a cluster of oak trees. With a sneer, Jessica snatched my precious notebook, the one where I captured our adventures together. "Look at this, everyone," she taunted, flipping through the pages. "She writes letters to her dog like he's a person. What a freak." Her friends joined in, laughing as they formed a tight circle around me. But even in that moment of humiliation, I felt Max's unwavering love shining through, reminding me that true friendship transcends cruelty. "Please give it back," I whispered, reaching for my cherished notebook filled with drawings. But Jessica, with a cruel smirk, tore out the pages and tossed them into the pond. Tears streamed down my face as I watched my artwork float away, carried by the water. In a moment of desperation, I lunged for my notebook, but Jessica sidestepped me. My momentum took me forward, and before anyone could react, I found myself tumbling into the cold depths of the pond. Max, always vigilant from his favorite spot, sensed the danger instantly. With a powerful leap, he cleared the fence and dashed across the playground. Teachers shouted in alarm, but Max's heart was set on saving Emily. Without hesitation, he plunged into the water. Emily had briefly surfaced, gasping for air, before sinking below again. Guided by pure instinct and love, Max dove deep, his determination unwavering. In those frantic moments, time seemed to stretch endlessly as the pond churned around him in a desperate search for his friend. When Max finally emerged from the water, he clutched Emily's collar in his teeth. She lay still, and he dragged her gently onto the bank, where Jessica and her friends watched in shock. Teachers raced toward them, walkie-talkies crackling with urgent calls for help. In her panic, Emily thrashed wildly, accidentally hitting Max in the head with her elbow. Despite his own pain, Max stayed resolute by her side, embodying the true spirit of loyalty until help arrived. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye where Emily had struck him, but all Max cared about was keeping her safe. As teachers provided first aid and awaited the ambulance, whispers began to circulate among the gathered crowd. Some claimed they had seen Max attack Emily, while others insisted he had pushed her into the pond. Jessica and her friends, fearing repercussions, chose to remain silent about the truth of what had truly happened. But in the heart of Max, there was only one story, a tale of unwavering devotion and love. When the paramedics arrived, the narrative began to shift into something more troubling. Parents called the school, demanding action against the so-called dangerous animal that had supposedly harmed a student. Standing at the edge of the crowd, Principal Mr. Thompson watched with a heavy heart as Emily was loaded into the ambulance. Max, wanting to follow, was held back by a teacher. His soft whines of distress echoed across the now hushed playground, a testament to his loyalty and love. The truth would eventually rise above the chaos, but not before choices were made that would change everything. The aftermath of the pond incident unfolded like a slow-motion nightmare. Emily was rushed to Millbrook General Hospital, while Max was left behind at the school, tethered by a janitor's makeshift leash. Though a swelling bruise marred his face where Emily had unintentionally struck him, his eyes remained fixed on the path the ambulance had taken, a soft whine escaping as he longed to be with her. Thomas Harrison was the first to arrive at the school, his truck still idling in the parking lot after receiving the emergency call. The sight of Max, drenched and injured, made him stop in his tracks. "What happened to him?" he asked, noticing the blood on Max's face. The school staff exchanged uneasy glances before Mr. Thompson stepped forward, ready to clarify the truth behind the heroism of this brave dog. "Mr. Harrison, there was an incident at the pond," the principal began cautiously. "All students reported seeing your dog acting aggressively toward Emily before she fell in." Thomas's heart sank as Mr. Thompson continued. "While we appreciate that Max may have been trying to help, his presence on school grounds has become a serious concern." Meanwhile, Sarah was at the hospital with Emily, who had finally mustered the courage to share her side of the story, but the damage was done. Parents were already reaching out to the school board, and local social media buzzed with conflicting narratives. The next day, animal control officers arrived at the school to assess Max. The gentle dog sat calmly as they examined him, his injured eye swollen shut. The officers noted his sweet demeanor, yet their report couldn't quell the rising panic among parents. Emily, released from the hospital that evening, was heartbroken to hear that Max had been labeled dangerous. "He saved me," she exclaimed tearfully to anyone who would listen. "Jessica was the one who pushed me in." But Jessica and her friends had already woven their story, backed by their influential parents, leaving Emily and Max fighting for their truth. Dr. Williams, the compassionate veterinarian who had cared for Max since he was a puppy, came to examine his injury with love and concern. "This is clearly a defensive wound," she explained, pointing to the swelling. "The angle and nature of the injury suggest Max was helping, not attacking. She penned a heartfelt report testifying to Max's noble character and actions. Yet despite her support, the school board made a difficult decision. Max was deemed a liability, and the Harrisons faced an ultimatum: remove Max from the school area or face legal consequences. The news felt like a heavy weight on the family's hearts, especially when they learned some parents threatened to withdraw their children if Max wasn't removed. Thomas and Sarah spent countless sleepless nights weighing their options. They felt trapped, unable to relocate to a different school district, and with both parents working, homeschooling was not an option. Yet, through the challenges, they found solace in watching Emily and Max together, their bond deepening despite the odds stacked against them. The final blow came when their insurance company sent a notice stating they would cancel their homeowner's policy if they kept a dangerous animal on the property. The family had only 10 days to find a solution, or they risked losing both their insurance and their home. Through it all, Max remained steadfast. Every morning, despite his injury and the turmoil surrounding him, he still attempted to walk Emily to school, stopping obediently at the property line he could no longer cross. His unwavering loyalty in the face of injustice only made the thought of separation more heartbreaking. The homeowner's policy faced a challenge when the family had to find a solution to keep their beloved dog, Max, safe and sound. They had just 10 days to resolve the situation or risk losing their insurance and rental agreement. Throughout this ordeal, Max's unwavering loyalty shone brightly. Despite being injured and surrounded by uncertainty, he continued to walk Emily to school every morning, stopping at the property line he could no longer cross. His dedication, even in moments of unfair judgment, made the thought of separation even more heart-wrenching. In the small town of Millbrook, the incident involving Max quickly split the community into two groups. The local newspaper, the Millbrook Herald, ran a sensational front-page story titled, "Family Dog Turns on Child, School Safety in Question." Unfortunately, the article was penned by a junior reporter who hadn't taken the time to speak with the Harrisons, igniting a whirlwind of controversy. Social media erupted, with heated debates flooding the concerned parents of Millbrook Facebook group, spearheaded by Jessica's mother, Patricia Anderson, who was determined to protect the children. They gathered over 500 signatures for a petition aimed at enforcing stricter animal control measures around schools, using Max's situation to highlight their concerns, while overlooking his years of gentle companionship. At church that Sunday, the Harrisons felt the weight of judgment as familiar faces opted to sit elsewhere. Even their longtime neighbors, the Wilsons, hesitated to let their children play in their front yard when Max was outside. Yet, amidst the noise, a few brave voices sought to bring clarity. Dr. Williams shared Max's medical report online, emphasizing the defensive nature of his injuries. Mr. Roberts, a witness to Max's daily routines, penned a heartfelt letter to the editor, defending the dog's kind spirit. Sadly, their messages of reason were drowned out by the waves of fear and speculation. In the front yard, Max was outside, embodying the spirit of loyalty and love. A few brave voices tried to speak up for him. Dr. Williams shared Max's medical report online, revealing the true nature of his injuries. Mr. Roberts, a neighbor who had witnessed Max's gentle spirit during his daily vigils, wrote to the editor, defending the dog's kind heart. Yet, amidst a chorus of fear and speculation, these voices were often lost. The tension escalated when Jessica's parents decided to hire a lawyer, threatening to sue the school for allowing Max onto the property. The school board, feeling the pressure from the community, called an emergency meeting to discuss a no-pets policy that would impact many neighborhood families. Meanwhile, Emily faced her own trials at school. Former friends shunned her in the hallways, influenced by their parents' fears. Lunchtime became a quiet struggle, the empty seats around her a reminder of her loneliness. But one person, Michael Chin, a new boy in class, chose to sit with her, forging a connection untainted by the surrounding turmoil. As the situation escalated, anonymous calls began reaching Thomas's trucking company, suggesting he was irresponsible for having a dangerous dog. Sarah found herself receiving fewer shifts at the laundromat, as some customers requested to work with different staff. Yet, despite the challenges, the strength of community and love began to shine through the darkness. In a town divided, the Harrisons found themselves in the eye of the storm. Local businesses took sides, with the pet store where they bought Max's food showing support for the school board's decision, while a competing shop extended a heartfelt discount to the family in quiet solidarity. As the days passed, Emily poured her heart into her diary, documenting the truth of Max's rescue, her words a beacon of hope amid the growing tension. Through her drawings and heartfelt entries, Emily captured the essence of love and loyalty, hoping that one day someone would see the truth in her story. The pages became a canvas for her tears as she witnessed friendships fade away over a misunderstanding. Yet, in the midst of this turmoil, the Harrisons remained resilient, carrying the weight of injustice while knowing that Max, their furry hero, would never be a villain in their hearts. The day Max had to leave dawned cold and gray, as if the world itself grieved for the family. Thomas had found a loving space for Max at his old Army buddy Jack Miller's sanctuary, 50 miles away in Chester County. Jack promised to care for Max until a brighter solution emerged. Emily, unable to sleep, spent precious moments curled up beside Max in the backyard, their bond unbreakable, even in the toughest of times. As dawn broke, Sarah found them wrapped in each other's warmth, both dusted with morning frost. "It's just temporary, sweetheart," Thomas reassured Emily as they prepared Max's belongings. Each item, his favorite blue ball, worn blanket, and special grooming brush, held memories. Emily's heart ached, but she held on to hope, believing that love would guide them through this challenging moment. With a tremor in his voice, Thomas felt the pressure of the looming deadline from the insurance company. Sarah decided to make Max's favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with cheese, as a special treat for his last meal. As Max savored each bite, his eyes remained locked on Emily, who sat beside him, her own breakfast untouched, filled with love and concern. When Jack's red pickup truck arrived, the reality hit Emily hard. "Please, Daddy, don't let them take him," she cried, clinging tightly to Max's neck. "I promise I'll be more careful." In this moment of heartache, Max licked away her tears, his gentle tail wagging, offering comfort to his beloved friend. With a heavy heart, Thomas lifted Emily away, giving Jack the chance to lead Max to the truck, knowing that love and hope would find a way to reunite them. The dog, with his gentle nature and well-trained spirit, went along without hesitation. Yet, at the truck's tailgate, he paused, turning back to look at Emily with eyes full of understanding and sorrow. Even Jack, who had seen many animals relocated, felt a wave of emotion. "He'll be well cared for," he assured Emily, his voice thick with feeling. "You can visit anytime," but they all understood that the 50-mile distance would make those visits rare. With Thomas's demanding trucking schedule and Sarah's long hours at work, it seemed nearly impossible to visit Max. As the truck drove away, the image of him sitting in the bed, watching them through the rear window, etched itself into Emily's heart. She stood in the driveway long after they had gone, her small frame trembling with noise until Sarah gently guided her inside. The house felt emptier without Max, no sound of nails clicking on the hardwood, no gentle breaths from his cozy corner. Emily wandered through the house, touching Max's water bowl, his leash still hanging by the door, and the empty space where he used to lie beneath the kitchen table. That night, overwhelmed by her emotions, Emily developed a fever. Sarah stayed by her side, listening as her daughter cried out for Max in her sleep. The weight of the situation, the unfairness of separating such loving companions, burdened both parents with sorrow. Thomas spent the night in the garage, organizing tools he had already arranged countless times, grappling with the choice they had made. While he tried to convince himself it was right, the thought of losing their insurance and job loomed heavy. Yet, logic did little to soothe the ache in his heart. In the days that followed, Emily would still unconsciously reach for Max whenever she read or did homework, her hand finding only empty space. She kept his brush on her bedside table and would often be found holding it, tears streaming down her face. Each morning, passing the school fence where Max had awaited her was the hardest. Emily would pause, staring at the empty spot until the warning bell pulled her inside. The whispers of her classmates faded into the background as she navigated her grief, the loss of Max overshadowing everything around her. Signs of Emily's pain began to surface slowly. 3 weeks after Max's departure, Sarah noticed her daughter hardly eating, merely pushing her food around her plate. Dark circles began to form under her once bright eyes, and her usual energy dwindled. During parent-teacher conferences, Ms. Wilson observed that Emily had become withdrawn, no longer engaging in class discussions. But amidst this pain, hope lingered, reminding us that love, even through loss, has the power to heal. "I can see Emily is struggling," the teacher shared, gently holding up a folder filled with incomplete assignments. She looks out the window, lost in thought, as if her spirit is elsewhere. The turning point came during a routine checkup with Dr. Peterson. Emily's health indicators were concerning. Her weight had dropped significantly, and her blood pressure was unusually low. The doctor, with a compassionate demeanor, pulled Sarah aside. "Depression in children can show itself physically," he said softly, urging her to take action. "Has there been any significant stress or change in Emily's life recently?" Dr. Peterson inquired. Upon hearing about Max, the family's beloved pet, his expression deepened with concern. He had seen children grieve pets before, but Emily's symptoms seemed more pronounced. Further evaluations revealed that her immune system was struggling, weakened by grief and stress, making her vulnerable to every passing illness. What began as occasional sniffles turned into persistent infections. Once a vibrant girl who enjoyed outdoor adventures with Max, Emily now faced health challenges that seemed insurmountable. Thomas, ever the supportive father, took time off from work to accompany Emily to her many medical appointments. With each visit, specialists uncovered new issues: irregular sleep patterns, heightened stress levels, and a lack of appetite. The mounting medical bills added to their emotional weight, but they remained determined to find hope. Worry became a constant companion for Sarah. Night after night, she would awaken to check on Emily, often finding her daughter's pillow damp with tears. The stuffed German shepherd they bought as a loving tribute to Max remained untouched in the corner of Emily's room. At school, Emily felt increasingly isolated. Friends who once stood by her began to drift away, unsure how to navigate the depths of her sadness. During recess, Emily sat alone on the bench, clutching her diary filled with cherished memories of her time with Max. One particularly challenging day, she fainted during gym class, prompting the school nurse to call for an ambulance. The sight of their daughter being loaded into the vehicle for the second time that year shattered Thomas and Sarah's hearts. In the emergency room, doctors identified signs of systemic stress in Emily's body, revealing the depth of her struggles. It appeared Emily was fighting a battle on numerous fronts. "The connection between mind and body in children is incredibly powerful," Dr. Peterson explained during a follow-up visit. "Emily's emotional pain isn't just affecting her mood, it's impacting her entire well-being." He recommended therapy, but the family's insurance would only cover a small portion. Jack, a friend, reached out regularly with updates about Max, but each mention seemed to deepen Emily's sorrow. Yet in the midst of this darkness, the promise of healing and hope lingered, waiting to be embraced. Max, the loyal dog, seemed to share in the sadness of his beloved Emily. Day after day, he would sit by the road leading to Millbrook, waiting with unwavering faith, just like he had always done. Despite Jack's efforts to cheer him up, Max's spirit dimmed alongside Emily's. Sarah discovered Emily's school notebooks filled with colorful drawings of Max, each page capturing his faithful vigil by the school fence, a testament to their unbreakable bond. Emily's fixation on Max worried the school counselor, but her heart was set on her furry friend. The irony was palpable. In a bid to protect the children, the system had inadvertently harmed one of its most vulnerable. Yet the fear and bureaucracy overshadowed compassion, and their painful separation continued. Still, the love between Emily and Max endured, a beacon of hope in a challenging time. As medical bills piled up like an insurmountable mountain, Thomas and Sarah found themselves at their kitchen table late one night, overwhelmed by the pun. Each statement was a reminder of the sacrifices they were making for Emily's care. "We could sell the truck," Thomas suggested, recognizing it was their only valuable asset, yet knowing it would mean losing a crucial part of his ability to work. With determination, Sarah added up the figures once more, hoping for a miracle that would change their dire situation. Their savings, built through years of hard work and frugality, were vanishing. Sarah took on extra shifts at the laundromat, while Thomas drove risky night routes, fueled by love and the hope of providing for Emily's needs. Despite their tireless efforts, Emily's need for specialized care was overwhelming. They sold cherished possessions, Thomas's fishing gear, Sarah's mother's china, even Emily's outgrown clothes. Each sale a bittersweet sacrifice. The pressure mounted as bill collectors called and payments fell behind, but their love for Emily pushed them to keep fighting. They managed to keep the electricity on through a payment plan, but the gas company was less forgiving. Sarah heated water on an electric hot plate to ensure Emily had warm baths, showcasing her unwavering dedication. Observing their struggles, the neighbors who once distanced themselves during the Max incident began to offer help, leaving groceries on their porch. The local church rallied support, though it barely scratched the surface of Emily's medication costs. Yet amidst the challenges, the kindness of the community shone brightly, a reminder of the love that surrounds us even in the darkest times. Pride battled with necessity as the Harrisons embarked on a journey they never anticipated, accepting help. Everything changed when their landlord notified them that the house where Emily had taken her first steps and Max had found his family was being sold. With just 30 days to find a new home, their hopes seemed dim after medical debts had ruined their credit. Yet in a twist of fate, Thomas discovered a modest two-room apartment above Gino's Pizza Shop downtown, a place where new memories awaited them. Though the stairs were steep, the windows drafty, and the delightful aroma of garlic filled the air, it was all they could afford. Moving day was bittersweet. They had to part with most of their beloved furniture, leaving Emily's new room shared with the living area, barely big enough for her bed. The walls, too thin to showcase her drawings, offered a view of a brick wall instead of the yard where she once played happily with Max. Yet, in this new chapter, there was still a glimmer of hope. Emily stayed strong, but her parents noticed her silent tears as they stored away Max's old bed and toys, unable to find space for them. Sarah took on odd jobs, washing laundry in their tiny bathroom at night, while Thomas found comfort on a fold-out couch that creaked but was a reminder of their resilience. They faced challenges, yet they never lost sight of their love and determination. Though they had to cancel their monthly calls to Jack's farm, the connection to Max remained alive in their hearts. One night, Thomas discovered Sarah on the apartment steps at midnight, clutching unpaid bills and quietly sobbing. "We did this to her," she whispered. "We took away her best friend, and now we can't even give her a proper home." In that moment, Thomas wrapped his arms around her, understanding their struggle. They found solace in prioritizing Emily's health, knowing that love could conquer even the most challenging circumstances. Through their trials, they learned to live simply, making coffee, buying discount bread, and mending Emily's school clothes until they were patched with love. Their dedication to Emily's health was unwavering, even as they faced the all-too-familiar emergency room at Millbrook General. This time, as Emily was wheeled in unconscious after collapsing at school, hope flickered in the air, reminding them of their strength and resilience. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, Emily looked fragile, but Sarah held her hand tightly, refusing to let go. As Thomas completed the admission paperwork, he felt the weight of their journey, but also the warmth of hope. "Her temperature is 104.2, a nurse announced, her familiarity indicating a shared concern for Emily's well-being. In that moment, the Harrisons knew that through love and perseverance, they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Emily's school uniform, once a perfect fit, now hung loosely on her small frame. Dr. Peterson, who had been closely monitoring Emily's condition, rushed in, leaving the golf course mid-game upon receiving the urgent call. His usual cheerful demeanor was replaced by deep concern as he checked her vital signs. "How long has she been unconscious?" he asked, shining a light gently into Emily's unresponsive eyes. In that moment, I felt the weight of hope and love surrounding her, reminding me of the strength we find in our darkest hours. "She fainted during lunch," Sarah explained, her voice shaking with worry. "She hasn't been eating much lately. I try to make her favorite foods," she said, trailing off as memories flooded back of Emily sharing her meals with Max, her loyal dog, who would rest his head in her lap as she ate. The next 48 hours blurred into a whirlwind of tests and consultations, each moment heavy with uncertainty. As Emily drifted in and out of consciousness, she called for Max, her eyes reflecting a longing that seemed to drain her strength. But even in that struggle, I felt the bond between them, a love that transcended words. Specialists filled the room, each offering their insights and theories. The immunologist spoke of immune system challenges, while the neurologist suggested stress-related responses, and the child psychologist addressed the physical impacts of emotional distress. Yet no one could fully explain why Emily seemed to be retreating from the world. Meanwhile, Thomas spent countless nights in a hard plastic chair beside her bed, his colleagues covering his shifts, their hearts remembering their own children's battles. His unwavering presence ignited a flicker of hope, reminding us all that love can be a powerful healer. Sarah juggled hospital visits with her shifts at the laundromat, stealing moments of rest wherever she could find them. Her new apartment lay empty, bills stacking up, but her focus remained steadfast on Emily's recovery. On the fourth day, a dramatic shift occurred. Emily's fever soared and her breathing became labored. The medical team sprang into action, rushing in with ice packs and medication, working tirelessly to stabilize her. In that frantic moment, I was reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the love that surrounds us during our trials. Sarah felt helpless as she watched her daughter struggle for each breath, each moment a reminder of the fight within her. "We may need to consider long-term hospitalization," Dr. Peterson said quietly. "Her body isn't responding as it should. It seems she's lost her will to heal." He paused, then gently added, "Sometimes the medicine we need most isn't something we can prescribe." Those words echoed the wisdom of Helen Keller, who said the best and most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. It was clear that love and support were crucial for Emily's healing journey. That night, Thomas made a heartfelt call to Jack's farm using the hospital's phone, desperate for news about Max. The updates weren't encouraging. Jack shared that Max had stopped eating regularly, lying in a spot with the best view of the road to Millbrook. His voice was heavy with concern as he described how Max perked up at every approaching car, only to slump back into sadness when it wasn't the Harrisons. Yet, in that sadness, I could sense the deep love and connection they shared, a bond that could bridge the gap between them. Together, they would find their way back to each other, igniting hope anew. Emily's room transformed into a vibrant tapestry of love and support during her hospital stay. Get well cards from classmates adorned the walls, though it was clear that Jessica and her friends were missing in action. A collection of stuffed animals gathered around her, and even the wilting flowers from the church congregation spoke of the community's care. The initially stark white walls came alive with Emily's colorful drawings, each one a celebration of her adventures with Max, her beloved dog. As the nurses grew accustomed to the soft echoes of Emily's nighttime tears, they would often find comfort in her gentle calls for Max, resonating through the quiet pediatric ward. The night staff learned to anticipate Emily's sudden awakenings, often sparked by dreams that whisked her back to her old yard where she and Max played without a care in the world. During these moments, some staff members would sit with her, holding her hand and listening intently as she shared tales of Max's unwavering loyalty and gentle spirit. Days turned into weeks, and while Emily's physical health began to stabilize, her spirit seemed to linger in a distant place where Max was always waiting for her at the school fence, ready to play. News of Emily's hospitalization spread through Millbrook like wildfire, igniting heartfelt discussions and reopening old wounds. The town, already divided over the incident involving Max, found itself confronted with the impact of collective decisions. The Millbrook Herald published a follow-up article titled "Local Girls' Health Crisis: A Community's Conscience," detailing Emily's health challenges and inviting reflection. Many began to question if the separation from her beloved dog had played a role in her condition, prompting a wave of letters to the editor that expressed the town's complex emotions. At Millbrook Elementary, the sight of Emily's empty desk began to stir empathy among her classmates. Michael Chen, her only lunch companion, courageously spoke up during the morning assembly, sharing how Emily had been the first to welcome him as a new student. His heartfelt words resonated deeply, bringing tears to many eyes, including those of students who once overlooked her kindness. In that moment, a wave of compassion washed over the school, reminding everyone of the power of friendship and acceptance. Jessica Anderson, who had initiated the incident that changed everything, found herself grappling with guilt. Overheard in the girls' bathroom, she confided in her friends that she never intended for things to escalate to this point. Meanwhile, her mother, Patricia, took a firm stance, organizing meetings to emphasize the importance of the school's new animal restrictions. Yet, in the hearts of many, the spirit of compassion grew, hinting that perhaps the community could come together to heal, just as Emily and Max had always done. In our local church, a spirit of compassion began to blossom amidst whispered opinions. During prayer meetings, some members lifted up Emily and Max, while others prayed earnestly for wisdom in protecting our children. The pastor, striving to maintain unity, delivered a heartfelt sermon about compassion and understanding, prompting many to reflect deeply in their pews. Then came Dr. Williams, our dedicated veterinarian, who courageously shared Max's complete medical history, highlighting years of gentle behavior and impeccable health. Her bravery in breaking professional silence showcased a powerful bond of love and trust. Dr. Williams also presented evidence of how the bond between children and their pets can be incredibly therapeutic. Though she risked her medical license, she stood firm in her belief that love and compassion outweigh fear. Meanwhile, the school board faced a wave of change. Parents who once supported Max's removal began to question their decisions, as their children came home asking profound questions about justice and friendship. Even Mr. Thompson, the principal, confided that he might have acted too hastily, reminding us all that understanding is key to healing. As the community rallied together, several businesses took a stand for love and healing. The hardware store proudly displayed a Get Well Emily banner, while the pet shop that once supported her removal quietly took down their anti-Max sign. The competing pet store stepped up, launching a fund for Emily's medical expenses and showcasing heartwarming photos of her with Max in their window. Even the Wilsons, who had initially kept their children distant from Max, became unexpected allies, embodying the change that love can inspire. Mrs. Wilson organized a heartfelt meal train for the Harrisons, while Mr. Wilson generously offered to drive Thomas to work during tough times. Their children brightened the hospital with daily visits, bringing handmade cards and little gifts to uplift Emily's spirits. The most surprising support came from Officer Jenkins, who once played a role in Max's removal. He began researching similar cases nationwide, discovering remarkable stories of service dogs detecting medical issues before they became apparent, proof that love often knows no bounds. His findings prompted a shift in perspective at the town council, suggesting they may have been too swift in labeling Max as dangerous. Meanwhile, the town's children, with their innocent wisdom, remembered the power of friendship. They brought their own pet photos to share with Emily in the hospital, filling her room with stories of loyalty and love. A group of fifth graders even started a petition during recess to bring Max home, uniting the community in a powerful wave of support and hope. Despite the challenges, the community remained resilient. The school district's lawyers advised caution, fearing potential liabilities, while insurance companies held their ground. Some parents voiced concerns, worried that one child's comfort might compromise the safety of many, though their voices grew softer over time. The dialogue in the community began to evolve, shifting from a simple debate of safety versus sentiment to a profound exploration of their shared values and priorities. What truly mattered more, shielding against hypothetical risks or protecting against real harm? The answer was no longer straightforward. The pivotal moment in Emily's hospital journey arrived unexpectedly on a rainy Tuesday evening. Thomas, weary from his night shift, dozed off in the visitor's chair, but a sudden buzz from his phone jolted him awake. It was Jack, his voice filled with urgency and concern. "Max broke out!" Jack exclaimed, panic lacing his words. He pushed through the fence. "I've been searching for hours, but with this rain..." His voice trailed off, heavy with worry. "Tom, I think he's trying to find his way back to Emily." The news rippled through the hospital staff. Nurses who had witnessed Emily's struggles exchanged worried glances, understanding the significance of this development for their young patient. Dr. Peterson quietly ordered extra monitoring, concerned about the emotional toll it could take if Max didn't make it. Meanwhile, miles away, Max embarked on his extraordinary journey through the stormy night. The determined German shepherd, thinner than before yet fueled by an unbreakable bond, navigated through unfamiliar landscapes. Motorists caught fleeting glimpses of him, soaked but resolute, always heading toward Millbrook. Oblivious to Max's adventure, Emily carried on with her routine in the hospital, but an unseen shift had occurred. She grew restless, casting hopeful glances toward the window, as if anticipating something special. The nurses noticed her heart rate quickening, her body responding to an unseen force. The local police, aware of Max's escape, found themselves in a delicate situation. Officially, they had to treat him as a restricted animal. Yet, many officers chose to slow their patrols along the routes to Millbrook, some even leaving food and water at strategic spots. Then, 3 days after Max's escape, a ray of hope illuminated Emily's path. For the first time in weeks, her fever dipped, and she asked for food unprompted. The medical team was baffled but hopeful. What they didn't know was that Max had reached the outskirts of Millbrook, his instincts steering him closer to Emily with every determined step he took. With cautious hope, Sarah observed her daughter Emily's growing alertness. Emily was starting to talk more, asking about home and even showing interest in her get-well cards. It was as if she could sense the love of her loyal dog Max approaching, responding to his presence even before he arrived. The community was buzzing with excitement and hope as local residents began calling the police station with sightings of Max. He was moving through town with determination, avoiding busy streets and sticking to familiar paths. The very routes he once walked with Emily to school, the park where they played, and the old house filled with cherished memories. The news spread like wildfire through the hospital. Nurses who had witnessed Emily's struggles found themselves cheering for Max, some even extending their shifts to keep an eye on the unfolding miracle. Dr. Peterson, aware of the dog's impending arrival, chose to embrace the unexpected, allowing the magic of love to take precedence over protocol. Remarkably, Emily's vital signs began to improve, seemingly touched by the hope that was coming her way. Emily's blood pressure stabilized, her breathing became more regular, and a hint of color returned to her cheeks. While the medical staff documented these changes with professionalism, they couldn't help but glance at the clock, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. That night, as Max finally made his way to the hospital, a kind-hearted security guard, who had heard Emily's story, chose to look the other way as a muddy, weary German shepherd slipped quietly through the parking lot, drawn by the bond of love. Following his instincts, Max navigated the complex hospital corridors with unwavering determination. The night shift nurses, already aware of his anticipated arrival, created a gentle pathway, guiding him toward pediatrics. Some held tissues, knowing they were about to witness a beautiful reunion. In her room, Emily stirred from her sleep, and as her monitor registered a sudden spike in awareness, a familiar wet nose brushed against her hand, accompanied by a whimper that filled the room with warmth. The joy of Max's reunion with Emily, though brief, was profoundly impactful. Her improvement was astonishing. Her vital signs strengthened, she began eating regularly, and for the first time in months, a radiant smile lit up her face. The compassionate hospital staff, moved by this transformation, made an exception to their rules, allowing Max to stay by her side. However, just 3 days after Max's arrival, Emily faced a sudden challenge. In the early hours of the morning, Emily's fever spiked unexpectedly. The night nurse discovered her burning up, despite the cool air of the room. Max, steadfast and devoted, was the first to alert the staff with his worried barking. "Something's wrong," Emily whispered to Max, her small hand gripping his fur. The dog pressed closer to her bed, his instinctual love guiding the medical team as they rushed in. Dr. Peterson, called back from home, arrived to find Emily's temperature rising despite their efforts. Yet through it all, the love between Emily and Max shone brightly, a testament to hope and resilience in challenging times. In a moment of profound love and hope, Sarah and Thomas stood vigil by their daughter Emily's bedside, their hearts heavy as they witnessed her struggle. The monitors beside her beeped urgently, reflecting the tension in the room. Max, her loyal dog, sensed the unease, his behavior mirroring the emotional storm swirling around them. "We need to move her to intensive care," Dr. Peterson instructed, his voice filled with compassion. As they prepared to transfer Emily, her eyes flickered open, revealing a deep bond that transcended words. "Please don't let him take Max away again," she whispered, her voice a fragile thread of connection. Those heartfelt words lingered in the air as they wheeled her bed toward the ICU. In that moment, Emily's heart raced, echoing the love that surrounded her. Despite the chaos, Max's spirit remained unwavering, a testament to the power of companionship and loyalty. The hours that followed were filled with a whirlwind of hope and determination as medical staff worked tirelessly, their dedication unwavering. In the waiting room, Sarah and Thomas held each other tightly, their hearts breaking yet still flickering with the light of love. Outside, Max lay with his nose pressed against the door, his soft whimpers a melody of devotion. At 3:47 a.m., Dr. Peterson emerged, his expression solemn, but his presence a reminder that every effort had been made. "We did everything we could," he gently stated. Sarah's cry of despair echoed, yet in that sorrow, the sun began to rise, casting a warm light across the room. Emily's space, once vibrant with hope, now stood still, yet the love she inspired remained, a testament to the joy she brought to everyone. Max, steadfast and true, refused to leave, his presence a loving tribute to their bond. News of Emily's passing spread through Millbrook, wrapping the community in a blanket of compassion. The school flag flew at half-mast, a symbol of collective grief and love. Emily's desk became a sanctuary of memories, adorned with flowers and notes from classmates who cherished her spirit. Even those who were once indifferent to Max's presence were touched by the depth of loss. Jessica Anderson, filled with regret, found the courage to share the truth about the pond incident, her confession marking the beginning of healing for all involved. As preparations for Emily's farewell unfolded, a profound sense of reflection settled over the community. The chapel at Grace Memorial Gardens, with its stained glass windows casting radiant colors, would host a celebration of her vibrant spirit. Thomas and Sarah navigated the arrangements, their love for Emily guiding them through the darkness. Even in their grief, they held on to the hope that love can transcend loss, reminding us all of the bonds that truly matter in life. Tears flowed freely as Max, back at Jack's farm, showed signs of heartbreak. He stopped eating, spending his days and nights by the fence, eyes fixed on the horizon, waiting for a message that seemed impossible to receive. Jack, feeling the weight of loss, made a brave choice. He decided to bring Max to the funeral, defying all doubts and regulations. In the days leading up to Emily's farewell, the town of Millbrook transformed. The usual hustle and bustle faded into a deep silence, as if the community held its breath in unity, sharing in the profound grief. The local florist ran out of white roses, Emily's favorite, as neighbors and even strangers came together to order arrangements for the service. Up in the Harrisons' apartment above Gino's Pizza, Sarah carefully ironed Emily's cherished blue dress one last time. Her hands trembled with love and memory, recalling the day Emily wore it when Max first bounded into their lives. Thomas sat at their small kitchen table, grappling with the task of writing a eulogy he never imagined he would have to deliver. The funeral home transformed into a tribute to Emily's short but impactful life, adorned with her drawings that lined the walls. Each piece depicted the beautiful bond she shared with Max, telling a story of love and companionship. In a corner, her school backpack, still filled with half-finished homework, stood together with Max's old leash and collar, symbols of their adventures. Principal Thompson, burdened by the weight of his conscience, finally found the courage to speak out. He released a heartfelt statement acknowledging the school board's role in Emily's struggles. "In our zeal to protect all children," he wrote, "we failed to protect one child's heart." His words ignited a passionate discussion at an emergency school board meeting, but the acknowledgement came too late to change the past. Jessica Anderson and her friends, now carrying the weight of their actions, sought to share their remorse at the funeral. Seeing her daughter's heartfelt regret, Patricia Anderson decided to withdraw her complaints about Max and offered to contribute to the funeral expenses. Though appreciated, this gesture highlighted the bittersweet nature of their timing. The local church ladies came together, preparing comforting meals for the reception. Their casseroles and pies were a humble yet heartfelt attempt to bring solace where words fell short. As they set up tables in the church basement, their soft conversations intermingled with occasional tears as they remembered Emily's radiant smile and gentle spirit. Dr. Peterson, inspired by Emily's journey, asked to attend the funeral, not as her physician, but as a witness to her struggles. He brought her medical records, highlighting the undeniable link between her separation from Max and her declining health. These documents would later serve as a catalyst for vital changes in hospital policies regarding therapy animals. Moved by the profound story, funeral home director Mr. Roberts made a landmark decision to allow Max to attend the service, prioritizing love over liability. "Some rules," he said quietly, "matter less than doing what's right." His courageous decision may have cost him his insurance, but it filled him with a sense of integrity that he would never regret. As the community reflected on their choices, many grappled with guilt. The pet shop owner, who had once displayed anti-Max signs, chose to honor Emily's memory by closing the shop on the day of the funeral and replacing the signs with a photograph of Emily and Max during happier times. The Millbrook Facebook group, once filled with concern, was quietly archived, leaving space for healing and reflection. The local newspaper prepared a special edition highlighting Emily's story and exploring how fear and rigidity had contributed to the tragedy. They included a series of Emily's diary entries, showcasing her innocent love for Max and the confusing sorrow of their separation. Jack arrived the day before the funeral with Max, who seemed to understand the gravity of the moment. The dog walked slowly, his proud spirit now replaced with a palpable grief that echoed Emily's own. Sarah insisted on keeping Emily's room just as she left it, the stuffed German shepherd still sitting silently on her unmade bed. That night, Thomas found Sarah clutching Emily's pillow, whispering heartfelt apologies to a daughter who could no longer hear them. The final preparations took on a surreal quality, as the tiny white casket adorned with white roses and Emily's favorite ribbons seemed to challenge the natural order of life, reminding us all of the enduring bonds of love. In the heart of Millbrook, parents held their children a little tighter, reminded of how swiftly joy can turn to sorrow. On the morning of Emily's funeral, the air was cold and misty, yet it was a day that would reveal the boundless love and loyalty of a dog named Max. At Jack's farm, Max felt the weight of sadness around him, refusing food and water, as his heart seemed to ache for his friend. Jack had planned to take him to the funeral, but Max had other intentions. In the stillness before dawn, he found a way to slip through the slightly ajar gate, driven by a force he couldn't ignore. This journey was unlike any other Max had taken before. There was a fervor in his stride as he moved through the morning free, a determination fueled by love and remembrance. Each step was purposeful as he retraced familiar paths, but now he was propelled by the urgency of the moment, casting aside exhaustion and hunger. Local truckers, who often traveled this route, began to notice and called in sightings. "There's that dog again," they reported, each sighting weaving a thread of hope. Word about the Harrison girls' dog spread like wildfire, igniting a community of caring hearts. A network of informal supporters emerged, eager to assist. Some left water bottles along Max's likely path, while others slowed down to give him safe passage. Officer Jenkins, touched deeply by Emily's story, took it upon himself to follow Max's journey from afar. He used his patrol car to create a safe corridor, ensuring that this brave dog could continue his heartfelt quest. In this profound moment, the community rallied together, embodying the essence of love and support. With unwavering resolve, Max trotted confidently through Creek Valley, his heart set on a mission. "I'm not interfering," he told the dispatch, "just ensuring public safety." As the morning sun began to lift the mist, Max pressed on, despite his bleeding paws. A local farmer spotted him and called the funeral home, remarking, "That dog's got a mission, best not to stand in his way." This determined spirit was a testament to the bond of love and loyalty. As the miles accumulated, Max's body began to show the strain, with his ribs visible through his coat and his proud stride turning into a determined limp. Yet, some inner strength fueled his journey. Witnesses later recounted how Max would pause to raise his head, as if listening for a call only he could hear, and then he would continue on with renewed vigor. As he neared Millbrook, recognition sparked in the eyes of those around him. People pointed from car windows, and adults stood silently on their porches, captivated by Max's painful yet resolute journey. The local radio station was alerted, and soon the entire town was aware of Max's pilgrimage to Grace Memorial Gardens. Each step echoed with memories as he traversed the familiar paths he had walked with Emily, past her school, where the flag flew at half-mast, through the park where they had shared laughter, and by their old house filled with cherished moments. At each landmark, Max paused, drawing strength from the beautiful memories that surrounded him. A small crowd began to follow at a respectful distance, recognizing the extraordinary nature of his journey. Parents lifted their children onto their shoulders, whispering lessons of loyalty and love. Even those who once feared him now watched with silent admiration, witnessing the powerful testament of Max's devotion. The final stretch to the cemetery was the toughest. Max's strength was waning, his steps becoming unsteady. Yet his determination remained unwavering. Observers noted a profound focus in his eyes, a purpose that transcended his exhaustion. As Grace Memorial Gardens came into view, his pace quickened slightly, fueled by an unyielding spirit that pushed him forward. The morning sun had fully risen, casting golden light across the cemetery grounds where mourners had begun to gather. No one dared to stop him as he approached the funeral site. The crowd that had followed him paused, recognizing that this moment belonged solely to Max. His journey, a final act of devotion, transformed him from a once feared animal into a symbol of loyalty and love, forever etched in the hearts of those who witnessed his extraordinary journey. The gathering at Grace Memorial Gardens was a beautiful testament to love. as friends and family came together in greater numbers than anyone had anticipated. The small chapel overflowed with mourners, many finding solace beneath the overcast sky. Thomas and Sarah Harrison sat in the front row, their hands tightly clasped, embodying the strength of parents facing unimaginable loss. Emily's tiny white casket was surrounded by an abundance of white roses and pink ribbons, a symbol of her bright spirit. Her school photo smiled down from an easel, capturing her vibrant eyes and the infectious joy she brought to everyone around her. Beside her photo stood a candid shot of Emily and her best friend Max, radiating happiness as they played joyfully in autumn leaves. Principal Thompson was the first to speak, his heart heavy with emotion. "We let her down," he admitted, his voice trembling. "In our desire to protect, we lost sight of the most important thing, each other." His words resonated deeply, reminding everyone of the profound connections that bind us together. Jessica Anderson, supported by her mother, approached the podium next. With trembling hands, she unfolded a piece of paper, her heart pouring out in heartfelt sorrow. "I'm sorry, Emily," she began, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm sorry for the hurt I caused. I truly am sorry." Her courage to admit her mistakes inspired a wave of forgiveness, sweeping through the room, uniting everyone in shared compassion. Overwhelmed by emotion, Jessica was led back to her seat, dissolving into tears. The service continued with hymns and readings, yet an undercurrent of reflection filled the air. Each person present felt the weight of their shared responsibility, recognizing the importance of kindness and connection in their lives. As the minister spoke of angels in heaven, his words began to weave a tapestry of hope, reminding everyone that love transcends even the greatest of losses. Thomas rose to deliver the eulogy, his large frame appearing smaller in the shadow of grief. "Emily embraced life fully," he began, his voice thickened with emotion. "She cherished her mother's pancakes on Sunday mornings and loved to create pictures for everyone she met." Just as he spoke of her bright spirit, a stirring at the back of the chapel captured everyone's attention, murmurs rippling through the crowd. Through the open doors came Max, his fur matted with mud, leaving traces of his journey on the chapel floor. Despite his exhaustion, he moved forward with unwavering determination toward Emily's casket. Sarah instinctively rose from her seat, but Thomas gently held her back, recognizing the respect Max commanded. The loyal dog reached the casket, resting his head against it, and released a gentle whine that echoed the grief and love that filled the room, reminding everyone of the unbreakable bond they shared. At that moment, the minister paused, his words about removing the dog fading away. The scene before them was a profound reminder of love in its purest form, the loyalty that had driven Max 50 miles to say goodbye to his beloved friend. This heartfelt act would be spoken of in Millbrook for years to come. Max, in his own way, was a beacon of love, a testament to the healing power of companionship, and a living symbol that even in our most challenging times, love finds a way to shine through. As Max gently pawed at the polished wood, a church elder whispered, "Someone should remove him." But no one moved. There was an undeniable connection between Max and the casket, a bond that captivated the entire congregation. With each determined movement, the dog's nose pressed against the seams, his whines filled with a heartfelt urgency. Sarah watched, tears streaming down her face as Max circled the casket, his actions growing more frantic, echoing the love and loyalty that transcends even the deepest grief. Each time he passed, his paws left marks on the pristine surface, yet the congregation's focus shifted away from decorum to the raw emotion filling the chapel. The electric tension in the air was palpable as Thomas stood frozen, one hand gripping his unfinished eulogy. He gazed at Max, who returned to the front of the casket, placing both paws on its surface. The sound that erupted from the dog was neither bark nor howl, but a primal expression of desperation, an unwavering refusal to accept the loss of a beloved companion. Dr. Peterson, sitting near the front, leaned forward, his professional demeanor melting away as he became fully engrossed in Max's behavior. It reminded him of remarkable stories he had encountered, where animals sensed what humans could not. Max's attempts grew more vigorous. He pushed his nose against the casket lid, trembling with determination. Some attendees moved to intervene, but Jack, arriving just in time, raised his hand with an authority born from years of understanding animals. "Wait," he urged, his voice steady and calm. "Something's not right here." Thomas's urgency reached its peak. He stood on his hind legs, scrabbling at the casket lid and releasing a series of barks that echoed through the chapel. Those sounds carried a message that transcended words, a desperate plea to uncover the truth and honor the bond of love that binds us all. In a moment of instinct, Sarah broke free from Thomas's gentle restraint. She rushed to Max's side and placed her hand on his head. "What is it, boy?" she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and fear. "What are you trying to tell us?" The chaos that erupted in the chapel divided mourners, each feeling the weight of the moment in their own way. Several church elders stepped forward, intent on restoring order to the solemn occasion. "This is a house of love," one protested, reaching for Max's collar. Yet, unexpectedly, Patricia Anderson, who had once campaigned against Max, rose to his defense. "Let him be," she asserted, positioning herself between the elders and the dog. "Haven't we interfered enough?" Her words resonated deeply, reflecting the growth that comes from understanding and compassion. They all stood witness to a lesson in love, loyalty, and the unbreakable bonds that connect us in times of sorrow. With a look of genuine compassion, Mr. Roberts, the funeral director, approached, acknowledging the heavy emotions in the room. "I understand this is a difficult moment," he began thoughtfully, but paused as Max, the loyal dog, barked with an urgency that seemed almost human. Thomas Harrison found himself at a crossroads, torn between the rules and the deep bond he shared with Max, the dog who had been a steadfast companion to his beloved daughter. In that poignant moment, Sarah placed her hand gently on Max's head, speaking with newfound determination. "He's trying to tell us something," she insisted, her voice carrying a spark of hope that had been absent for days. Dr. Peterson moved closer to the casket, his medical training clashing with the powerful scene unfolding before him. "In all my years," he whispered, captivated by Max's focused efforts, "I've never witnessed such purposeful behavior." As the minister attempted to reclaim the flow of the service, his voice struggled to rise above Max's increasingly urgent barks. The atmosphere in the chapel shifted dramatically as whispers spread through the congregation. Some called for Max to be removed, while others urged patience, sensing the weight of the moment. With each desperate sound from Max, the traditional funeral service faded into the background, replaced by the tension of this extraordinary situation. Officer Jenkins, having followed Max's journey to the chapel, stepped forward with conviction. "I've seen this incredible dog track Emily for 50 miles, he stated firmly. "If Max is trying to communicate, we owe it to Emily to hear him out." James Anderson, a retired emergency physician attending the service, watched Max's behavior with an intrigued eye. Nothing like this had stirred his memory in his 4 decades of practice. Slowly, he made his way through the murmuring crowd toward the front. "I've witnessed something like this before," he declared, his voice rich with experience. Years ago in Chicago, he had encountered a similar situation. Moving closer to the casket, his keen eyes remained focused. The congregation hushed, captivated by the authority in his tone. Nelor looked up at him, her eyes a blend of hope and fear. "What do you mean?" she asked as Dr. Anderson kept his hand gently on Max's fur, drawing strength from the dog's unwavering presence. Thomas stepped forward, wrapping a protective arm around his wife. "Sometimes," Dr. Anderson explained, kneeling carefully despite his age, "what we perceive as death can be something entirely different." He reached for his old medical bag, a habit he couldn't quite shake. "There are rare cases where the body enters such a deep state that it mimics death." The funeral director, visibly concerned, interjected, "Doctor, all proper procedures were followed." "The death certificate," but Dr. Anderson raised a hand, silencing the concerned murmurs. He was attuned to Max, who had sensed a friend in the room, calming in the doctor's presence. "Get me a stethoscope," he commanded with the authority born of years of experience, "and let's bring in some real light." The congregation sprang into action, a wave of hope washing over them as Mr. Roberts, the funeral director, stepped forward, key in hand. In a moment that felt surreal, the casket lay closed, yet hope flickered in the air. "This is highly irregular," he murmured, but his steady hands revealed a deeper purpose guiding him. As Dr. Anderson began his examination, a remarkable transformation unfolded. Max, the devoted dog, shifted from frantic energy to intense focus, his eyes locked on the doctor's every move. The entire chapel held its breath, caught in a beautiful balance between grief and the glimmer of possibility. As sunlight poured into the chapel, Dr. Anderson worked with a calm focus, his hands moving with the confidence of a seasoned healer. The congregation watched, breaths held in unison, as he gently pressed his fingers against Emily's neck. "Faint, but there's a pulse," he announced. Sarah gasped, a mix of disbelief and hope flooding her heart, while Thomas steadied himself against the pew, a flicker of optimism igniting within him. With each passing moment, Dr. Anderson's voice grew more animated, filled with urgency and determination. "She's in a profound state of unconsciousness," and he explained, embodying the resilience of countless medical cases he had witnessed. "It can mimic death, but the body can be so resilient." His eyes sparkled as he looked at the gathered mourners, instilling a sense of hope that resonated within them. "We need an ambulance, now!" Officer Jenkins sprang into action, his voice steady as he called for emergency services. The funeral director, once composed, now stood captivated by the unfolding miracle. Max, ever faithful, sat beside the casket, a serene expression on his face. Dr. Anderson turned to the parents, his words firm yet gentle. "Your daughter isn't dead. She's alive. She's in a deep comatose state, but she's alive," Dr. Anderson reassured them, his voice thick with emotion. Max seemed to understand the gravity of the moment, radiating a calmness that enveloped the room. "In 40 years of medicine, I've never witnessed anything like this," the doctor confessed as the distant sound of sirens broke the stunned silence, heralding the arrival of hope. Later at the county general, Dr. Anderson directed, stepping aside to allow the EMTs to begin their work. "Call ahead for Dr. Sarah Mitchell. She's the state's best neurologist. It's similar to the Jensen case from '98. The EMTs nodded, expertly transferring Emily from the casket to the gurney. As they wheeled her out, Max rose and followed, a loyal companion on this journey of hope, his spirit unyielding and filled with love. As Sarah and Thomas walked closely behind the gurney, their hands tightly clasped, hope began to fill the spaces once occupied by despair on their tear-streaked faces. At County General Hospital, the pieces of the puzzle surrounding Emily's condition began to emerge, revealing a story of resilience and love. Dr. Mitchell, the dedicated neurologist, worked tirelessly through the night, consulting with colleagues and delving into medical literature. "What we're witnessing is incredibly rare," she shared with the Harrisons in her office, a beacon of hope amidst uncertainty. "Emily's body, under immense emotional and physical stress, has entered a state of profound hibernation. Hibernation. The discovery that her vital signs had dropped so low that standard tests missed them was a revelation that ignited a wave of action within the medical community. The original death certificate was officially rescinded, and a thorough investigation was launched to prevent such a misdiagnosis from happening again. The hospital administration, recognizing the gravity of the situation, began a meticulous review of their protocols for confirming death, all in the spirit of ensuring that no family would have to endure such pain again. The most remarkable aspect of Dr. Mitchell continued, her eyes bright with revelation, is Max's extraordinary ability to detect what our instruments missed. Dogs are known to sense changes in human physiology that even our most advanced equipment can't catch. In this case, Max's persistence has literally saved Emily's life. The local press flocked to the hospital, eager to share the story of what they dubbed the miracle at Grace Memorial. However, Thomas and Sarah, shielded by hospital security, remained focused solely on the precious recovery of their daughter. Max was granted special permission to stay by Emily's side, and his calming presence seemed to have a positive impact on her vital signs. Dr. Anderson, who had made the initial discovery, visited daily, marveling at the bond unfolding before him. "In all my years of medicine," he observed, watching Max vigilantly by Emily's bed, "I've never seen such a clear example of the bond between humans and animals. While many doctors have training, Max brings something irreplaceable, pure, unconditional love." The truth about Emily's condition became a powerful reminder to the community about the dangers of hasty judgments and the importance of truly listening to those who care deeply. The school board, shaken by the events, began drafting new policies that would prioritize the emotional well-being of students alongside physical safety. The transformation in Millbrook was immediate and profound. As news of Emily's recovery spread, the community that had once been divided united with remarkable solidarity. The Bring Max Home campaign, initiated by school children weeks earlier, blossomed into a broader movement for change. Patricia Anderson took the lead in dismantling the very restrictions she had once supported. At a heartfelt school board meeting, she stood before her former allies, her voice trembling with emotion. "We were wrong," she declared passionately. "Our fear nearly cost a child her life." This courageous admission sparked a wave of compassion and commitment, showing that love and understanding can indeed bring about healing and transformation. It's time to make this right. The heartwarming transformation began as local businesses that once turned away from the Harrisons rallied in an inspiring show of support. Gino's Pizza, their landlord, generously decided to waive the rent for all the months they spent in the hospital. The pet store, which had previously judged Max, humbly apologized and offered a lifetime supply of dog essentials for the pup they once mischaracterized. Collection jars filled with compassion appeared on counters throughout town, helping to ease the burden of the overwhelming medical bills. High school students stepped up, organizing a benefit concert that resonated with community spirit, while elementary school children crafted handmade friendship bracelets in honor of Max and Emily. Even the insurance company, which had initially forced Max's removal, reached out through their local agent, offering to reinstate the Harrisons' policy with special provisions for Max. Jessica Anderson and her friends took their feelings of guilt and transformed them into action, creating a student committee dedicated to preventing bullying and fostering understanding. They shared Emily's story across schools, spreading a powerful message about the dangers of prejudice and the importance of standing up for what is right. Dr. Williams, the compassionate veterinarian who always defended Max, collaborated with the town council to develop new, fairer guidelines for handling animals in public spaces. These new policies focused on actual behavior instead of breed or size, emphasizing the value of emotional support animals. Inspired by the miraculous bond they witnessed, the church congregation established a special fund to assist families facing similar challenges, embodying the spirit of community love. The pastor's uplifting sermons began to weave in messages about the profound connections between humans and animals, urging everyone to look beyond surface judgments. Emily's return home marked a beautiful new chapter for the Harrison family. After weeks of recovery at County General, she was finally strong enough to leave the hospital. As she walked out, the hallways were filled with staff members who had watched Max's unwavering dedication, many wiping away tears as Emily, with one hand on Max's back for support, stepped into a new beginning. A delightful surprise awaited the family outside the hospital. Mr. Wilson, their former neighbor, stood beside his daughter, Jennifer. "We've been busy while you were here," he said, handing Thomas an envelope. Inside was the deed to a charming little house on Maple Street, purchased through a community fund and lovingly donated to the Harrisons. Though modest, the house was perfect. A fenced yard for Max to roam, 3 cozy bedrooms, and most importantly, no stairs for Emily to navigate during her recovery. Local contractors generously donated their time and materials to renovate the new home, while the garden club planted Emily's favorite flowers in the front yard. The entire move from their cramped apartment was managed by enthusiastic volunteers. Church ladies organized the kitchen with love, high school students painted the walls in cheerful hues, and the local furniture store delivered new beds, including a comfy, oversized cushion for Max right next to Emily's bed, symbolizing the warmth of community and the power of love. When Sarah entered her new laundry room, she was met with a washer and dryer, thoughtful gifts from her co-workers at the laundromat. Thomas, too, felt the love of his community. His garage workbench was filled with tools from his fellow truck drivers. Each corner of their new home radiated warmth and support. But it was Emily's bedroom that truly captured their hearts. Her cherished drawings of Max were framed beautifully on the walls, and a cozy window seat provided the perfect nook for reading, with Max happily by her side. On her desk, Emily discovered a special journal embossed with paw prints, a heartfelt gift from her classmates. That first evening in their new home, the Harrisons found joy in each other's company, nestled together on their porch swing as the sun set. With Emily leaning against her mother and Max resting at their feet, they savored the simple luxury of togetherness, feeling safe and whole. On a bright spring morning, Emily stood confidently at the podium in Millbrook Elementary's auditorium, with Max proudly beside her. The assembly buzzed with excitement as they celebrated the opening of the school's new Companions Corner, an inviting space where students could connect with the therapy animals during lunch and recess. A year ago, Emily began, her voice strong and clear, I learned that sometimes the greatest love comes with 4 paws and a wagging tail. The audience chuckled warmly, many recalling their own roles in the journey that led to this wonderful day. The transformation at the school was remarkable. Hallways adorned with pictures of Max and other therapy dogs, alongside educational posters about animal behavior and emotional support, reflected the vibrant spirit of the community. Emily's close friend, Jessica Anderson, led a student group dedicated to introducing younger children to the therapy animals. Dr. Anderson, now retired, still visited often to check on Emily, having established a foundation to explore the bond between animals and human health, with Max and Emily's inspiring story at its core. Their research was already making waves, influencing policies at hospitals across the state. Sarah embraced a new role, leaving her job at the laundromat to manage the foundation's community outreach program, while Thomas drove local routes that allowed him to come home every night. Their home on Maple Street became a beloved gathering place, filled with laughter as children played under Max's watchful eye. Max himself aged gracefully, earning the title of Millbrook's most cherished resident. Though his fur had whitened with time, Max's devotion to Emily never wavered. He continued to accompany her to school each day, now officially certified as a therapy dog, welcomed with open arms through the front doors. As Emily concluded her heartfelt speech, she bent down to hug Max, who responded with a gentle lick on her cheek. Love doesn't always look the way we expect it to, she said, her voice carrying a wisdom that resonated deeply, touching the hearts of everyone present. Sometimes the embodiment of unwavering love can be found in the eyes of a German shepherd who stands by you through thick and thin. The applause that echoed in that room wasn't just for Emily's heartfelt words. It was a celebration of the incredible journey they all shared. It was a tribute to the mistakes made, the lessons learned, and above all, to a remarkable dog named Max, who taught an entire town the true essence of loyalty. In the story of Max and Emily, we discover life's most profound lessons often come in unexpected forms, reflecting the core values that unite us all. This story beautifully illustrates unwavering loyalty, the strength of community, and the wisdom that comes from acknowledging our missteps. As we navigate through life, we may sometimes overlook the many languages of love, especially the silent devotion of our faithful furry friends. It brings to mind the times when our communities rallied together during challenges, when compassion triumphed over pride, and the simple yet profound truths we gleaned from our beloved companions. It echoes cherished memories of neighbors lifting each other up, and of children imparting lessons of unconditional love to adults. It speaks to the second chances that appear just when hope seemed to fade. For those of us who have watched our towns evolve over the years, who have felt the bonds of community stretch and sometimes wane, the tale of Max and Emily serves as a gentle reminder that small-town values are never truly lost. They simply await the right moment to shine through. It reassures us that even in our golden years, we have the capacity to learn, to grow, and to make a meaningful impact in someone else's life. Most importantly, it teaches us that the purest wisdom often comes from the steadfast love of a dog who never gives up. I hope you found joy in today's story. If it touched your heart, subscribe to our channel for more uplifting tales, leave a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.